10-year anniversary of Skyrim slowly approaching us, and the Elder Scrolls V nowhere to be seen, I thought it would be great to take a look back at one of the most beloved games of the past decade. Skyrim was released in 2011 and set the bar extremely high for all future RPGs. Skyrim is a vast and immersive game that many of its fans have played multiple times over the last 10 years. To celebrate 10 years of Skyrim, I'm going to take a look back at arguably the greatest RPG of all time and discuss why it was so good. If you like this video and are an RPG fan like myself, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future content. For those of you who haven't played Skyrim before, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the plot, and for those of you who are veterans of the game, just sit back and relax to the sound of my beautiful voice and reminisce of your time exploring Skyrim while I remind you of the fantastic story. The Elder Scrolls Skyrim is a huge open world RPG, and you play a character who is quickly identified as being Dragonborn. Being Dragonborn allows you to devour dragon souls, which results in destroying the dragons forever. The Dragonborn's destiny and task is to defeat legendary dragon Alduin, whose profit is to destroy the world. After nearly getting your head decapitated at the beginning of the game, you manage to escape as Alduin launches an attack. After escaping, your journey of meeting new characters and your path to defeat Alduin begins. The story feels as though it's really been thought about, and it's so creative. It's really easy to follow, which is great because you don't have to think too hard whilst you're playing, which allows you to play through the game as relaxed as you want. There are so many characters you meet along the way from various backgrounds that help you in your journey to defeat Alduin, and you can meet a whole lot more when you venture off the beaten path and start exploring the side quests and the massive open world. Skyrim has a ton of in-depth side quests, which is one of my favourite things about the game. As well as short side missions, there are also side quests that end up having longer and interesting storylines that can distract you from the main story for hours, such as joining the College of Winterhold, being part of the Thieves Guild, taking part in a civil war, or even becoming an assassin with the Dark Brotherhood. Skyrim does a fantastic job at giving players so many options and choices to be the character they specifically want to be. Having so many great quests is one of the reasons Skyrim is so good. It's amazing that a game can have so many unique and entertaining side quests and actually deliver on every single one of them. I felt every quest line that was included in Skyrim actually belonged in the game, and it genuinely felt like they had all been carefully thought about. Not once did I come across anything that felt like it was just put in the game for the sake of having more content. I feel like the main story and the side quests are both incredible, and Bethesda done an amazing job at coming up with so many great ideas and bring them all together into one epic game. The graphics hold up really well in my opinion, and even if you don't like them, it's really easy to use mods to improve the visuals even on consoles. I still feel the map is amazing, and I never fast travel anywhere as I like to soak up and take in as much of Skyrim's beautiful world as possible. I'm actually surprised at how well the map still holds up nearly a decade later, and it hasn't aged at all. I'm not just talking about the graphics either, I'm talking about how the actual map design still excites me. One of the best maps that aged terribly is GTA 5. The map was insane and so fun to explore when it came out, but when I play GTA 5 now, I don't really enjoy or like the map as much as I once did. But I never get that with Skyrim, which is another reason this game is so impressive. I still really enjoy exploring the large cities and dangerous dungeons. Exploring and discovering new locations around Skyrim's vast and unique map is just as enjoyable and fun today as it was 10 years ago. And that's crazy if you think about it, because I've played Skyrim over 20 times. The only other game I can say the same about is The Witcher 3, so it's really impressive. Skyrim's simple but effective skill tree is one of the best and addictive I've come across. It encourages you to play the game how Bethesda intended, by using a mix of all the skills to get your unique character to the highest level possible. The only skill tree I thought was a bit pointless was the pickpocket skill, although it did have some useful perks if you managed to get it to a high enough level. Skyrim offers so many ways for you to play through the game, and I could easily sit there for half an hour debating where to put my first skill point, as I was unsure if I wanted to play through the game as a sneaky archer or a powerful legendary mage. The same can be said about which race I wanted to play as. I tended to ignore the perks each race come with and just ended up creating a completely unique and godly looking character, as I wanted the Dragonborn to look as cool as possible regardless of the race and the perks that you got with it. I think this is another reason why Skyrim is such an extraordinary game and why it's so popular. Fans are still able to play it and enjoy the game a decade on. It offers so many different ways to play through the game, as each skill tree you choose to follow will have you playing a different way, which means every playthrough can feel completely different. And not many other games can offer that level of replayability. Even if you spent hundreds of hours slaying dragons, Skyrim will always manage to pull you back in for another epic playthrough. There's thousands of enjoyable hours worth of gameplay with Skyrim, and if you do play it for over 1,000 hours, you'll still stumble across something new, whether that's a new shout or an unexplored dungeon. The combat is also better than expected. I've always enjoyed Skyrim's combat, and while it might seem basic while using a sword and shield, and it can even look boring if you haven't actually played before, but it's actually so much more advanced than the simple block and strike system may appear. There may not be any counters or dodges, but attacks have to be timed well, and it's important to know when to turn up the pressure as well as when to back off from a tough fight. There's a huge and diverse array of weapons to use at your disposal, ranging from a deadly bow and arrow to a powerful staff, from daggers to swords and battle axes to maces. There's literally hundreds of weapons you can buy, loot and craft that you can use during combat that can all be enchanted and upgraded to make each item even more powerful. There's also loads of lethal spells you can learn, which are extremely useful during combat. Skyrim was an absolute masterclass when it was released back in 2011, and it still blows my mind today, nearly a decade later. Skyrim is a colossal open world game filled with people to meet, places to explore and dragons to slay. Even after hundreds or even thousands of hours of gameplay exploring Skyrim, you will still discover unique items and territories which offer something interesting and unique every time. Skyrim is not only one of the best games of the past decade, it's one of the best games of all time, and I think it always will be. 10 years on, and Skyrim is still a sensational experience. Make sure you check out the video that's on screen now, because I'm going to give you all the information we know so far about Skyrim Anniversary Edition, which will be launching in 2 months' time.